global company Total Energies to expand investments in Malaysia. Hamas finds no major issues with Gaza truce offer. Salam Malaysia Madani. You're watching World Today with me, Renee Fong. Total Energies, a global energy supplier company based in France, has stated its commitment to increasing its investments in Malaysia's upstream oil and gas (ONG) sector. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said Total Energies also plans to continue exploring opportunities in the carbon storage field in Malaysia. The Premier expressed hope that the investments can be realised as soon as possible and trigger an overflow of prosperity for Malaysians, especially in creating more job opportunities and knowledge sharing. Earlier, Datuk Seri Anwar met with Total Energies Chief Executive Officer and Chairman Patrick Puyen on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum (WEF) special meeting in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Total Energies was established in Malaysia in 1984 and has investments in various sectors in the country, including renewable energy, electricity, oil and carbon storage. Recently, Total Energies signed an agreement with Sapura Upstream Assets Sdn Bhd to acquire its 50% interest in Malaysian independent gas producer and operator Sapura OMV Upstream for $530 million, subject to closing adjustments. In a related development, Datuk Seri Anwar said ASEAN is currently the fastest growing economic bloc in the world. With the stance by Southeast Asian countries that are more centred on sub-regional understanding, this circle is expected to become an ideal location for investments and bilateral cooperation. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, in his speech at the ASEAN Gulf Cooperation Country ASEAN GCC Dialogue, said all parties should find mechanisms to advance trade, investments, collaboration and research together. He emphasised that the collaboration between both sides is mutually beneficial. Datuk Seri Anwar added that not only does ASEAN welcome GCC participation in terms of investments and collaboration, but more ASEAN companies are also active in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, in the United Arab Emirates, Qatar and neighbouring countries. He said that ASEAN members have been excellent partners working together, discussing frankly and set priorities right. The bloc also takes into consideration some of the new emerging issues, which is also a challenge to the region, such as energy transition, digital transformation and food security. Highlighting the level of cohesiveness ASEAN has, Datuk Seri Anwar stated that he would continue to aggressively promote ASEAN as Malaysia assumes the chairmanship next year. On another note, the Islamic Development Bank, ISDB, has the potential to continuously forge ahead in playing a pivotal role in addressing the issue of inequality and marginalisation. Datuk Seri Anwar expressed full confidence that ISDB would be able to go beyond their initial focus, especially with new young leadership at the helm.
To deal with substantive issues on the new technology, on the issue of the need for inclusivity, and our ultimate passionate concern from the earlier days of the pioneers of the bank until the present is the passionate call to serve the Ummah, particularly those who have been deprived and marginalized through education, through training, through economic opportunities, through economic empowerment, through entrepreneurship. And I think this is our appeal and our hope.
Malaysia joined the ISDB in August 1974. It has a capital subscription of 1.55% worth 868.18 million Islamic dinars, which is equivalent to one special drawing right of the International Monetary Fund. Malaysian Hajj pilgrims who will perform the Hajj this year are the first pilgrims in the world to be issued with visas from the Saudi Arabian Hajj and Umrah Ministry. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Religious Affairs, Datuk Dr. Muhammad Naim Mokhtar, said the success was due to early preparation by Tabung Haji (TH) in various aspects, including system management and commitment of its workforce.
Yang paling utama sistem kita lah. Satu komitmen, kan? Komitmen sebab tabung haji ni memang kita telah bersedia daripada awal. Jadi dengan adanya keupayaan daripada sudut komitmen yang ditunjukkan oleh warga kerja dan juga sistem yang kita ada. Jadi bila mana permohonan visa ni dibuka oleh kerajaan Arab Saudi, jadi kita yang pertama sekali menguruskan dengan cepat permohonan visa tadi tu.
He said this at a media conference after reviewing the visa and passport processing for Hajj pilgrims at Menara Tabung Haji in the federal capital. Also present were the TH Board Chairman Tan Sri Abdul Rashid Hussein and TH Executive Director Datuk Sri Syed Saleh Syed Abdul Rahman. The official Hajj quota for Malaysian pilgrims this year remains at 31,600. The first pilgrimage flight from Malaysia is scheduled for 9th May. Hamas said it had no major issues after reviewing Israel's latest proposal for a long-sought truce and hostage release deal in the Gaza Strip after almost 7 months of war. A senior Hamas official said there are no major issues in the observations and inquiries submitted by Hamas regarding the contents of the proposal, adding that the atmosphere is positive unless there are new Israeli obstacles. The truce proposal reportedly includes an agreement to accept the release of fewer than 40 hostages in exchange for releasing Palestinians held in Israeli jails, and to a second phase of a truce that includes a period of sustained calm. Israel's government has come under intense pressure from global allies to reach a ceasefire in the war that humanitarians say has brought Gaza to the brink of famine, reduced much of it to rubble, and raised fears of broader conflict. Egypt, Qatar, and the United States have been trying to mediate a new truce ever since a one-week halt to the fighting in November saw 80 Israeli hostages exchanged for 240 Palestinians held in Israeli prisons. Meanwhile, France's foreign minister said that he would discuss proposals with Lebanese officials aimed at easing tensions between Hezbollah and Israel and preventing a war breaking out. France has historical ties with Lebanon, and earlier this year, Foreign Minister Stéphane Séjourné proposed Hezbollah pulls back from the Israeli border while Israel would halt strikes in southern Lebanon. The proposal has been discussed with partners including the US, and Paris wants to keep up the momentum amid Israeli threats of a military operation in southern Lebanon. Israel and Hezbollah have traded tit-for-tat strikes in recent months, but the exchanges have increased since Iran launched missiles on Israel in response to the killing of members of Iran's Revolutionary Guards Corps Overseas Quds Force in the Syrian capital Damascus. Hezbollah has said it will not enter any concrete discussion until there is a ceasefire in Gaza, where the war between Israel and Hamas has entered its 6th month. Israel has said it wants to restore calm on its northern border so that thousands of displaced Israelis can return to the area without fear of rocket attacks. World Central Kitchen has decided to resume operations in the Gaza Strip a month after 7 workers of the US-based charity were killed in an Israeli airstrike. Prior to halting operations, World Central Kitchen had distributed more than 43 million meals in Gaza since October, representing by its own account 62% of all international NGO aid. The charity said it had 276 trucks with the equivalent of almost 8 million meals ready to enter through the Rafah crossing and will also send trucks into Gaza from Jordan. The charity's chief executive officer, Erin Gore, said the humanitarian situation in Gaza remains dire and the organization is restarting its operation with the same energy, dignity and focus on feeding as many people as possible. She said World Central Kitchen decided it must keep continuing its mission of showing up to provide food to people during the toughest of times. The first April deaths triggered widespread condemnation and demands from Israel's allies, including the US, for an explanation. Israel said its inquiries had found serious errors and breaches of procedure by its military, dismissing 2 senior officers and reprimanding senior commanders. World Central Kitchen, however, is demanding an independent investigation. Ukraine's army leader admitted that Kiev's position on the battlefield has worsened after Russian forces captured another village in the east, pressing their advantage in manpower and ammunition. Russia's troops are advancing in the eastern Donetsk region as Kiev awaits the arrival of much-needed U.S. weapons that it hopes will stabilize the fragile front lines. Russia's defense ministry claimed its troops had captured the village of Novobakhmutivka in the Donetsk region, around 10 kilometers north of Avdiivka, which they seized in February. Ukrainian Commander-in-Chief Alexander Syrsky said the situation at the front has worsened. He noted that Russia has a significant advantage in forces and means and had been able to notch up advances amid heavy fighting. He confirmed that Russia had made some tactical progress in that part of the front, but said Moscow had yet achieved what he called an operational advantage. He also said additional units were being deployed to replace those that had sustained heavy losses. Leaders in Kiev have warned the military outlook could worsen in the next few weeks, while shipments of U.S. weapons are making their way to the front lines. Still ahead, Mexico bus crash leaves 14 dead and 31 injured. At least 14 people were killed and 31 others injured in a road accident in Mexico. The local safety secretariat said the accident took place in the state of Mexico on the outskirts of the capital when a bus overturned on the roadway. The accident occurred on the road between Kaplan and Calma. According to the National Statistics Institute, road accidents have been on the rise in Mexico since 2020. A total of 377,231 claims were recorded in 2022. On 24 February, 10 people died in an accident in the north-central state of San Luis Potosi, including 4 minors. On Saturday, a truck ran over migrants on foot, killing 3 of them in the southern state of Osaka. The truck driver is still at large. Meanwhile, over in Oklahoma, at least 5 people were killed when a number of tornadoes ravaged parts of its towns and nearby Great Plains states. The National Weather Service said after 78 tornadoes were reported on Friday, mostly in Nebraska and Iowa. A separate weather system on Saturday brought 35 tornado reports from northern Texas and Oklahoma to Missouri. The storms dumped up to 7 inches of rain in some places within hours. More than 50,000 homes in Texas and more than 30,000 in Oklahoma were without power. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt declared a 30-day state of emergency to expedite aid to 12 of the hardest hit counties. landmarks. According to the local meteorologists, the region is known for the frequency and power of tornadoes that rumble through every spring. However, having separate major outbreaks in succeeding days is rare. From America to the Philippines, Philippine students are learning about climate change the hard way amid a scorching heat wave that has seen temperatures hit 43 degrees Celsius, prompting authorities to suspend in-person classes in thousands of schools in April. Temperatures have hit 50 degrees Celsius in various regions in the Philippines as the weather phenomenon El Niño intensifies the heat enveloping the nation in its summer months of March to May. Authorities said schools have been suspended up until tomorrow. According to the local media, the unrelenting heat is not expected to dissipate and has a 50% chance of intensifying in the coming days. Students and teachers are worried about the learning loss they face, especially in poverty-stricken areas where access to gadgets and the internet can be challenging. According to Save the Children Philippines, young adolescents are the most vulnerable to heat, as studies show their bodies have a lower ability to cope with high temperatures compared to adults. When exposed to extreme heat for long periods of time, children are likely to suffer from heat-related illnesses characterized by headaches, dizziness, vomiting, and even fainting. In Georgia, some 20,000 Georgians staged a march for Europe protest, calling on the government to scrap a controversial foreign influence bill, which the EU has warned would undermine Tbilisi's European aspirations. The kilometre-long procession, which featured a huge EU flag at its head, stretched out along Tbilisi's main thoroughfare towards Parliament. The rally was organised by around 100 Georgian rights groups and opposition parties.
დღეს ჩემი აქ მოსვლის მიზეზი არის ჩემი და ჩემი ოჯახის პოზიციის დაფიქსირება, რომ არა რუსეთს და ჩვენი გზა და მომავალი არის ევროპაში. იმიტომ რომ ჩვენ გვინდა ევროპული სამართალი და ევროპული წესრიგი, სადაც სისტემა ემსახურება ხალხს და არა პირიქით სისტემა არ იმსახურებს ხალხს.
Georgia's ruling party announced a parliamentary committee set to hold a second reading of the bill this week. If adopted, the law would require any independent NGO and media organization receiving more than 20% of its funding from abroad to register as an organization pursuing the interests of a foreign power. EU Chief Charles Michel has said the bill is not consistent with Georgia's bid for EU membership and it will bring Georgia further away from the bloc. Tesla CEO Elon Musk met with China's number 2 official Premier Li Qiang in Beijing on Sunday, who promised the country would always be open to foreign firms. Musk arrived in China earlier the same day on his second trip in less than a year to the world's biggest market for electric vehicles. Chinese state broadcaster CCTV said during their meeting, Li had promised the country would be more to help foreign firms. Beijing would also provide foreign companies with a better business environment so that firms from all over the world can have peace of mind while investing in China. Musk has extensive business interests in China, and his most recent visit was in May and June of last year. He was reported as saying Tesla is willing to take the next step in deepening cooperation with China to achieve more win-win results. Musk is a controversial figure in the West, but in China, Tesla's electric vehicles have become a staple of middle-class urban life. China's local car giant BYD built Your Dreams beat out Tesla in last year's fourth quarter to become the world's top seller of EVs. Tesla reclaimed that title in the first quarter of this year, but BYD remains firmly on top in its home market. Sports news, Malaysia cruise into Thomas Cup quarterfinals. Kicking off our sports segment with badminton, Malaysia cruised into the quarterfinals of the 2024 Thomas Cup competition after whipping Algeria 5-0 in their second Group D match in Chengdu. For yesterday's match, the national camp made several changes, including fielding independent men's singles player Chiam Jun Wei and rising duo Chong Hun Jian and Muhammad Haikal Nazri against the African region. Malaysia's main singles player Lee Zijia barely lost any sweat in efforts to give Malaysia an early lead by thumping Adel Hamek 21-8, 21-6. In the second match, Jun Wei had no problem to brush aside the challenge from Yusuf Sabri Medal 21-9, 21-14 in 21 minutes to earn the second point for Malaysia. Meanwhile, it was a stroll in the park for Hun Jian and Muhammad Haikal as they took just 17 minutes to outpower helpless Sifedin Larbawi and Muhammad Abdul Aziz Oshafon 21-8, 21-3 and put Malaysia 3, Algeria 0. In the meantime, third singles Justin Ho came out tops against Muhammad Abdurrahim Belarbi 21-10, 21-14 to extend the lead and seal the fourth point for the national team. Nur Izzuddin Rumsani and Soh Wei-Yik needed just 25 minutes to finish off the task for Malaysia, securing a 21-13, 21-9 victory over Kochela Mamari and Youssef Sabri. In football, Paris Saint-Germain were crowned Ligue 1 champions for a record-extending 12th time as their third straight title was wrapped up following another dominant domestic campaign when second place as Monaco lost 2-3 at Olympique Lyonnais. PSG, who missed the chance to secure the title on Saturday when they drew 3-3 with the Ligue have 70 points, 12 ahead of Monaco with 3 games remaining. Monaco were the only side left who could prevent PSG lifting the title, but their faint hopes were extinguished in Lyon as they fell to their first defeat in 9 games despite taking an early lead. The visitors scored with a little over 20 seconds on the clock with Wissam Ben Yedder tapping home Takumi Minamino's cross at the back post. But Monaco were 2-1 down within 25 minutes through goals from Alexandre Lacazette and Said Ben Rama. Ben Yedder brought the sides level again on the hour mark, heading home a floated ball into the box by Yusuf Fofana, but it was Lyon who found a win at 6 minutes from there with Malik Fofana scoring from outside the area. Following the win by Lyon, PSG secured their 10th title in 12 seasons after suffering just 1 league defeat this season. In the English Premier League, Arsenal held on to beat battling local rivals Tottenham Hotspur 3-2 away and remain a point clear at the top of the table after an emphatic first half display and a nervous second period in an electric derby atmosphere. Arsenal arrived at the home of their neighbours, desperate for a win to boost their title challenge, and got the perfect start after 15 minutes when midfielder Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg headed the ball back into his own net from a corner. The Gunners extended their lead just before the half-hour mark when a counter-attack was calmly finished by Bukayo Saka after Spurs' Dejan Kulusevski slipped in the Arsenal area. Kai Havertz added the third with a simple header from a corner that eluded the home defence and the visitors were flying. Spurs pulled a goal back through Christian Romero just past the hour after David Raya played the ball straight to him, and the Argentine found a bottom corner to lift the home fans. Spurs were awarded a penalty in the 87th minute after Declan Rice kicked Ben Davies just inside the area when the Arsenal midfielder tried to clear the ball and Son Heung-min stepped up to convert the spot kick. Spurs piled on the pressure but could not breach the Arsenal defence again, and the visitors were left to celebrate the win. Meanwhile, Manchester City took another step in their bid to win a fourth consecutive Premier League title with a 2-0 victory over relegation-threatened Nottingham Forest with Josko Gvardiol and Erling Haaland on target. Pep Guardiola's men kept the pressure on leaders Arsenal pulling to within a point of the Gunners in the table with a game in hand. Forest had matched City in a nervous first half at the sun-drenched City ground before Gvardiol got the holders on the scoreboard with his second career league goal when he headed in Kevin De Bruyne's corner kick from the near post in the 32nd minute. Forest had only 10 men on the pitch at the time, following an injury to Nico Williams. Haaland made a quick impact when he entered the game as a substitute in his first action since missing 2 matches with a muscle injury. The Norwegian took a pass from De Bruyne in the 71st minute, took 3 touches, then launched it into the far corner for a league-leading 21st goal of the season. He had previously been level with Chelsea's Cole Palmer. City's final 4 games are against Wolverhampton Wanderers, Fulham, Tottenham Hotspur and West Ham United. Elsewhere, Inter Milan's official Serie A title party was in full swing as the newly crowned champions were acclaimed by thousands throughout their city after a straightforward 2-0 win over Torino. Supporters lined the streets as the team crawled their way to Milan's imposing Gothic cathedral. Simone Inzaghi's team cruised on an open-top bus tour of Milan towards the northern Italian city's iconic Piazza del Duomo, where fans lit flares and set off fireworks in honor of their heroes who claimed a 20-year league championship with 5 matches to spare. Those who were at the San Siro saw Hakan Calhanoglu's second half double, a fine first-time strike in the 56th minute, and a penalty 4 minutes later earned Inter a 28th league win of the season. Calhanoglu's role in winning the clash was appropriate as the Turkey captain has been key to Inter's charge to the title, becoming one of Europe's best deep-lying playmakers since being signed from Milan 3 years ago. Now that we're done with football, let's move on to tennis. Carlos Alcaraz passed the test of fire to breeze into the Madrid Open last 16 with a straight sets victory over Thiago Seyboth Wild. Double defending champion Alcaraz came through 6-3, 6-3 and will face last year's runner-up Jan-Lennard Struff in the next round after another impressive showing before adoring fans on home soil. World number 3 Alcaraz missed the month prior to Madrid with a forearm issue but returned to crush Alexander Zverev in the second round and looks in fine shape ahead of the French Open, the second Grand Slam event of the season. Still wearing a protective sleeve on his right arm, he had far too much for Seyboth Wild, who had ousted 28th seed Lorenzo Musetti. After taking 2 breaks in a solid first set, Alcaraz stepped up a gear in the second, breaking in the second and fourth games as he raced into a 5-0 lead. Seyboth Wild battled to a hold and a break to salvage some pride, but Alcaraz triumphed in serve when that Brazilian went long. Alcaraz seeks to become the first player to win the Masters 1000 crown in the Spanish capital 3 straight times. And that wraps up World Today. In our top story, global company Total Energies to expand investments in Malaysia. Tune in to Malaysia Tonight, coming up at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and saluran Berita RTM. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. I'm Renee Fong. Thanks for watching and have a pleasant afternoon.